Ήμασταν τυχεροί σήμερα, νομίζω, που είχαμε μαζί μας τον John van den Anker, ο οποίος είναι παιδίατρος και καθηγητής παιδιατρικής φαρμακολογίας στο Children's National Medical Center της Washington, D.C., με πολλά χρόνια εμπειρία ως ερευνητής σε κλινικές μελέτες σε παιδιά. Επίσης, ο Κλάους Ρόζε, που τουλάχιστον για 20-25 χρόνια τον θυμάμαι να ασχολείται με έρευνα και ανάπτυξη φαρμάκων σε μεγάλες φαρμακευτικές εταιρείες όπως η Novartis και η Roche. Μάλιστα, τα τελευταία χρόνια ήταν υπεύθυνος του Global Pediatric Development Program της Roche, που υπεύθυνο για να αναπτύξει όλα τα παιδιατρικά φάρμακα της εταιρείας. Και ενώ θα μπορούσε κανείς να πει αναμφισβήτητα ότι αυτό το πάνελ επικεντρώθηκε στην έρευνα για παιδιά, όχι άδικα όπως ακούσαμε, ένα πολύ μεγάλο ποσοστό των φαρμάκων που χρησιμοποιούνται σήμερα στα παιδιά, όχι αυτά που δεν χρησιμοποιούνται, πάνω από 50%, δεν υποστηρίζονται από κλινικές μελέτες, δηλαδή πρακτικά δίνονται εκτός ενδείξεως. Και τα παιδιά, η περίπτωση των παιδιατρικών φαρμάκων δίνει και το παράδειγμα των προβλημάτων, αν θέλετε, των νομικών, των ηθικών, των επιστημονικών, αλλά και των τεχνολογικών προβλημάτων, των τεχνικών προβλημάτων που έχουμε, όχι μόνο σε δύσκολους και μικρούς υποπληθυσμούς όπως τα νεογνά, όπως τα πρόωρα, αλλά και ηλικιακά groups όπως οι ηλικιωμένοι, σπάνιες νόσους. Έχουμε τα ίδια προβλήματα, όπως έχουμε και για ασθένειες για νεογνά, όπως και για παράδειγμα αυτό που νομίζουμε ότι ξέρουμε τι εννοούμε, η εξατομικευμένη ιατρική, δηλαδή γιατί ένα φάρμακο έχει μια καλή φαρμακοδυναμική επίδραση σε κάποιον, ενώ σε κάποιον άλλον δεν έχει. Και νομίζω ότι τώρα αρχίζουμε και το ακουμπάμε και ψάχνουμε αυτούς τους υποπληθυσμούς και σε αυτό μας βοηθάει πολύ η φαρμακογενομική και η φαρμακογενετική. Θα συνεχίσω την συζήτηση στα αγγλικά για να μπορούμε να πάρουμε όλοι μέρος και ιδιαίτερα οι καλεσμένοι μας. Και όπως είπε και ο κύριος Σεζούνης, θα μπορούσαμε οποιαδήποτε στιγμή να έχουμε και ερωτήσεις από το κοινό. John, Klaus, thank you for being here. I'll continue in English, although I have to say that Klaus Rose speaks Greek. He learned ancient and modern Greek when he was young. But I think it's fair for John to continue in English.
Yes, good idea.
It's a
thank you.
better idea. Okay. Since you are representing very well both sides of the Atlantic, and since it is acknowledged that there is indeed a medical need for more drugs for children, I would like to ask you to confirm how big is the problem of the off-label use of drugs in children, and what do you think, what is your personal opinion, whether European Union and US initiatives and laws of the last years, we have heard from Klaus that the European Union regulation of the last 3 years, but also in the States, this has been a case for at least 15 years now. Have these initiatives and these regulations, these laws really helped, or at least do you anticipate that it will facilitate drug development for pediatric use? And at the end of the day, we can hope for better health care for our children. What is your opinion?
Okay, let me start with the first part about how big is the problem. The problem is huge. So when you have a premature baby, more than 90% of these babies are exposed to medicines, but we don't know in the dose. So it's used in a very strange way. But even adolescents, so almost adulthood, 40% of these children are also exposed to medicines without knowing. And I think that's an important thing to work on. And so there's two things. We have drugs that are going to be developed at the moment. So they're going into the whole pathway that Dr. Rose already explained. But a lot of drugs we're using in pediatrics are old, like amoxicillin, penicillin, tons of medications. There's all old products are off patent. And there's a lot of regulation going on to study these drugs too, because we're using them in daily practice. Your question about the regulation did something in the US. I think what we know is that more than 400 labels changed. So in other words, a lot of drugs used in the way X, they were studied under the regulation, and it was clear that they should be changed in using them in a Y way. So many things changed. Are we there? No, we're not there. I think a lot of things have to happen. And I agree with Dr. Rose about the fact that sometimes the regulators want to make it too difficult. And that's not going to help the children. So what we need to do in this room, and in many rooms outside of this room, is to advocate that children needs to get studies done in them when it's feasible, and not asking unreasonable things. So regulations have helped. Without regulation, nothing would have done, because industry indeed is not interested in children because it's a small market. So that was good. The other thing is that we should not overshoot what we're trying to do.
Klaus?
There are 2 or 3 things to be said. One is, whenever there is an economic or financial incentive, industry will move. So to give you 2 examples, you have lung surfactant in preterm newborns. That was developed, interestingly, first by academics, and then they moved into the other side. They established companies. So lung surfactant, to this day, very important, but it was developed originally in the 50s. So that is an example where no pediatric legislation was around. Another example is growth hormone, which today is part of the daily life of a pharmacist. So it's a drug that was originally developed for children only. Today we know that it's needed sometimes even in adults. So when industry moves only when it sees an economic target. So without the regulation, let me say, much less would have happened. Then we have heard about the exaggerations. As you see, you have 2 experts. At the end, you will have 3 opinions. So I would disagree with John about the adolescents, because in adolescence, there has been an FDA hearing in May this year, and they discussed the dosing of in adolescents based on a presentation by an FDA official, and 12 out of 13 clinical experts came to the conclusion in adolescents it doesn't make sense to calculate own doses, because you always come up with the adult doses. There are exceptions, so you have to look into it in depth, but to blindly ask for separate dosing trials in adolescents, that is an example of exaggeration. But then I agree with Professor van den Anker, the younger the children are, the larger is the area of the unknown. So it is very difficult to say what has come out of the legislation in the US and in Europe. Definitely the conscience has become higher. We all know that children shouldn't be treated as small adults. That is very positive. We still are we don't even see the tip of the iceberg. Maybe we see the tip of the iceberg. So that is something we will have to do a lot for the next decades. And then the big question is, what has that to do with Greece? And maybe you want to continue with your questions.
Yes. Before going to that, I was wondering, for sure, and you will be able to confirm this, that in the last years we see more research in children, and we see more research also in pediatric formulations. Is that correct? So obviously, most probably the lack of commercial interest that from the pharmaceutical industry that is the driving force for drug development, that means the law did some good. It accelerated clinical trials in children, hopefully useful clinical trials in children. So can we hope at least that in the future we will have better medicines and better health care for children as a result of a regulation rather than a commercial interest?
The problem is, if you don't have companies who develop drugs, you don't have innovation. You can give money to professors, they will be happy to start research programs, and then the money is gone, and then nothing has come out. Yes, 3 papers have come out, 3 scientific publications. A company has to develop drugs. So you need a balance between allowing research that results in drugs at the end. If you let a regulatory authority behave in a way that it kills research by killing companies, that is bad. On the other side, I think there was a disbalance in the past, so to find a balanced approach is something difficult, and it's always difficult where more than 2 people are together, or more than 1 person is together. You have to discuss and you have to find compromises. So the advantage of the American system is there is more checks and balances.
Yeah, so what I can add to that, I think being an academic professor, I think there is this difference between new drugs on the market and old drugs. The old drugs would never be addressed without academia, because we have to develop the protocols, we have to get the money for that. So there's a balance in that, and I think at the moment we have to do a lot of work still in the old medications, and because in clinical practice that's what we're using in the majority of cases. I hope I can react still on the adolescents for one moment. The issue in adolescents is, and I agree partly with Dr. Rose about that, is the fact that you don't have to study everything. The issue is, though, when you're trying to, as a clinician, look for dosing in adolescents, it depends where you look, because it depends where you are. If it's 16 years, 18 years, 21 years, and when you look in adult medicine, for instance, in HIV treatment, when you look at the adult books, there's dose X. When you look at the pediatric books for the same age, there's dose Y, and they're quite different. So there needs to be more work done to synchronize that, because otherwise it depends where you're treated.
Okay. Can I have a quick question on this, a quick answer on this? Since we all feel that regulations help, even at the level of forcing someone to do research, but as Klaus said, this needs to be balanced. You don't need to go too much on the one side. Too much regulation is killing research. Could the recent regulations in children research become an example for similar regulations for rare diseases, for example, for elderly population or other subgroups that face the same challenges like children? This is something that we may see in the future, to see an analogy there?
There is already legislation for rare diseases, and it was aimed to facilitate research in rare diseases, to allow companies to invest money into rare disease research, and it had tremendous effects, such as Pompe disease, a disease that used to kill children when they were young. Today they just survive with the treatment. On the other side, these treatments cost extreme amounts of money. It costs per patient maybe €100,000 per month, or even per year, or even €500,000 per year. So now, imagine you discuss that with the Minister of Finances, and he will say, too expensive. You discuss that with the mother of a sick child, and you say too expensive, she will kill you. So these are different logics, and so rare diseases, there is an encouragement to foster research. For geriatrics, there is a discussion, but in the meantime, the pediatric committee has acquired such a negative opinion in the world of at least pharmaceutical industry, but also partially academia, and even in regulatory authorities, that everybody agrees this is a bad example, so it will not be repeated for geriatric patients. And to give you a third example, the next big discussion that is coming will be children that are not yet born, so children in the mother. If bureaucrats would love to have more legislation, they could hire more people, they could have more departments, but they would kill research at the end. So I think we have here a typical European example. Something has been tried. You have too much power given to bureaucrats, so there is a tendency to kill companies, which is not good. But then, eventually, something will be done also for elderly, for unborn children, for other issues, and that's it.
Yeah, especially I think the pregnant women are neglected because they're always excluded. And I think 50% of pregnant women, before they know they're pregnant, are exposed to medications. And I think that's an important topic because as a neonatologist, it starts already before the conception, but especially during pregnancy, it's important. But again, it should be very delicate because otherwise it's going to be too much over-regulated. Okay. But it needs teamwork. I think you need the regulators. Without regulators, it doesn't work. You need industry because they have the money, and you need academia because they have the brain. And I think with each other, and the parents because they're the best advocates for their children.
And finally, what are the ingredients that you think are more important to do pediatric research, generally clinical research, but pediatric research? Because we see a huge variety among countries, like on the social level, the social awareness, the medical education, the training, the quality and the quantity of the medical centers. And so what do you think are the criteria that are more important? Certainly not everybody can do clinical research, or everywhere. But what would you think that it would really need to do proper clinical research, which is very relevant to Greece also, and to the discussions that are going to follow?
I think the media have an important role. There are different countries, such as, let's take two examples, Sweden and the United Kingdom, where research is perceived as something very positive. Germany is another example where people are rather skeptical. So usually in the media, not a good picture is designed of what research is. That is something that would be nice to see it evolved, be it in Germany, be it anywhere else, but also in Greece. So to discuss what it means that new drugs are available, that diseases that were a death sentence some years ago can be just a chronic condition today, that is something where a lot of improvement is possible. And then the consequence is, will parents agree to have a child entered into a clinical trial? If they think it's God's will if the child dies or not, they will say no. If they think that science should be pushed forward and their child should have a chance, they will say yes. So everywhere in this world, parents with a child that has cancer usually agree to participate in a clinical trial, because we know already a lot about cancer in children, but there are other disease areas where the willingness of parents is less. So media have an important role in educating parents and not exaggerating or increasing the fears they also have. So that is just one issue that would be nice to be seen evolving, and there such a debate would be nice also in Greece, or specifically in Greece.
So social awareness that
yes.
Facilitated by the media.
Yeah, I think what is very important, and I've been working, of course, many years raised in the Netherlands and the last 10 years in the US, you need to provide first clinical excellence. In other words, you have to provide good clinical care or good ambulatory care to your patients, especially in children, because that's the way people are going to trust the medical profession. If there is mistrust, that can be real mistrust or perception, and you come with a research question, parents will say no. So I think you can't do good clinical research with having good clinical care already first provided in the places you want to do this. And then you need champions. In other words, you need people in the institution, in Athens or in Thessaloniki or in smaller places in Greece, but also other parts of Europe, that people are really going to put their effort there to put everything in place, like good clinical care, good practice, nurses who are dedicated, physicians dedicated, and who have time to do this additional work. And I think otherwise you're deemed to fail. And that happened in many places in Europe, including the Netherlands. We have a network that also failed to persist. So it's a lot of things to be done. But you need to have first clinical excellent care. Otherwise people don't trust you, or think they can't trust you. And if that's the case, parents will never allow you to use the patients or the people for studies.
I think there's one element, an additional element, and that is physicians must learn, apart from being good clinicians, they must learn one more thing, and that is to take the parents seriously. So if a parent is not sure what to do and it asks for a second opinion, the traditional physician will say, I'm the authority. That's an insult. You should believe in me, period. That was the attitude 50 years ago in all over the world. Today, a clinician who sees a parent who says, I want a second opinion, give me the name of another professor, I want to discuss it with somebody else. He should be glad that the parents ask, because once the parents have seen that what he told them was true, then they will trust. So the relationship between the physician community and the parents is something that must change from both sides. Physicians must perceive themselves more as a partner of the parents and not just an authority where you have to believe blindly every word. On the other side, parents have to learn. They do already. They use the internet. They come with prints. They ask critical questions. And on the other side, there's a point where you have to stop questioning. There's a point where you have to find trust. But it's a two-sided discussion.